All right, guys, final game of the day, MNM versus Barrage. Whilst we were looking at the top of the table in the previous engage, this is the bottom of the table. Barrage and MNM both slightly struggling here, but MNM very much so. They are yet to get a single win in the entire league.
So you're saying that this one is not the banger? Because the thing is that, like, I know that we just got to see one of the top of the table clashes. I love seeing Fnatic Rising just like clean house like that. Very cool coordinated game. But I also love fiestas. Like, I am all about that. Am I about to like be buckled in? Is this going to be a good one?
I don't know if you've seen the news recently, but MNM has made a substitution and subbed out Kilhira, their support, and subbed in their strategic coach instead in the support position.
I got party hats.
So prepare the party hats, prepare the balloons. Let's get it started. We're in for a banger. But if we have to...
Time my boys in Barrage to get a win.
Yeah, I think that Barrage has been looking like one of those teams who's, likewise with ENCE, has been improving every time we've seen them play. I can't say the same thing about MNM, unfortunately.
What's the long-term strategy then? If MNM are really fumbling, struggling, now subbing in their strategic coach, like, have they made any sort of like front-facing documentation that we have like a 2-year plan, 1-year plan? Is this just a group of friends like taking a run at it?
I can't answer that.
I don't know about that either, but all I can say is that they look completely disjointed. It feels like, I keep on saying every single time, just give Aesthetic, some freedom to play through, and this freedom never comes. And I actually have seen him have the freedom, and then it feels like he's mentally blocked to make the plays, to show how big he can be, the leasings on the Graves and whatnot. So I don't know if it's like a mental block completely on the entire team, but they do have the individual skill onto their laners. All that needs to happen is maybe a few weeks of development, a few weeks of playing together to gel together and get their playstyle coming in, because it just feels completely disjointed right now.
Honestly, when you look at MNM, like, you look at the individual names, like Aesthetic, like Barcode, these are people that have drawn brands around the way that they play. I mean, Barcode had a successful stream. He was a very, very prominent Challenger AD carry player. Aesthetic has been known as an incredibly good jungler. Like, individually, they should shine. Obviously, Monk made the swap to mid, which has been a challenge for him, but, he has got the pedigree there to be able to potentially do something with that. But they haven't looked together at all. Like, it's looked almost like, frankly, they are just the worst team in the league. I can't really put it in any other way. Like, I don't want to sugarcoat this. Right now, they look like the worst team in the league by quite a margin. And Barrage, even though maybe their scorelines don't reflect it, in my eyes, have gone from strength to strength.
Yeah. The thing is about Barrage and MNM is that every time we see MNM lose, it's pretty clear they're just straight up losing. When we see Barrage lose, they're not going down without a fight. They actually had a chance in that game, and I think that if MNM has to prove that there's any fire in that little marshmallow, it has to be this series.
And this is exactly what I wanted to touch on. We talked about how it so feels bad, man, when you're so close to the water, but you can't necessarily drink from it. This is what it feels like for Barrage, right? Because they have the win conditions, they play the early very well, and then it kind of fumbles and falls apart in the late with the calls and the execution. So it really feels bad, man, for them, because they don't necessarily get stomped. They're like, okay, we just need to restructure and rethink what we need to do. It's like, okay, we're doing everything great until that point where we just can't get through every single time. And it must get very frustrating.
So give me like the MO. You said words like the early game, that as soon as they transition into like mid-late game, they start to struggle. Why are they an early game team? Like, what kind of like cookie cutter composition am I looking for? And who's like the star player that's the name that I want to grab to and see that guy carry?
Honestly, it would have to be Yadron and 3D from the side of Barrage, because 3D played the Camille. He wanted to be the side lane nuisance all the time. He wanted to play the side lane. He wanted to get these flanks with the Camille, and he felt like he was the star player in the game versus Monster that we saw. And also Yadron, he can play a whole array of champions from the Orianna, and then he gets out his pocket picks like the Vladimir, the Kassadin, the Cho'Gath. That can be a big problem if you're not used to playing against them. So I think they should play around these two specific solo laners that they have and create their own sort of meta around them.
And if you're taking a look at the other side of MNM, look no further than just reading the name, because Monk will carry. So there's the answer to your question about who's going to carry from NMM.
No,
right
complete
there.
lie. Complete lie, Gulborg. You're absolutely talking rubbish. The carry from MNM is aesthetic. Aesthetic is, I think, one of the better junglers when he's on his day. I think everyone will remember Aesthetic's jungle game. I think it was in the Nordic Championship last bit where he played Kindred and he basically won the game by himself. You give Aesthetic something like a Kindred, something more carry orientated. I think Aesthetic's got the potential. I think Barcode's really solid. I think Kakan will do his job. Monk needs work. I think Monk realizes he needs work, and I think he'll eventually. I think Monk will eventually get there. But right now, I feel like Aesthetic is the driving force.
And I like that you mentioned Monk because he does make the transition to the mid lane because he feels like he can give so much more to the team, right? He has the global presence being in the mid lane. He can play, the TFs, the Gallios. He can influence other lanes. Being stuck on an ADC, you can't necessarily always do that. You can't make the calls. You can't make the decisions. You can't create the plays from zero, at least in the early laning phase. Go together with your jungle, do the 2v2. And we are yet to see this from Monk. He needs to dominate one lane. And it's like, we've seen so many picks of him that are not working. We're not necessarily seeing that mechanical play that we're looking for. And there's always one Tristana that gets repeatedly banned against him. And I'm like, you know what? If you think he's not good enough, why don't you leave the Tristana open? And we see.
Hey, look, Lucian, mid, we've seen it this week already. Maybe Monk can bring out some of his old AD carry pedigree. And the reason Monk went mid, by the way, was that he felt that his brain, like his mind for the game, was better and could be used more in the mid role. So I think he always looks to be more influential across the map, and that's why he made the transition. But as Trouble said, the mechanic's not quite there yet. He's not quite in the zone of mid lane. Right, guys, we have got a break, and then we're going into Champion Select. We'll see you there.
Sunsets, high rise, you know you're on the floor, diamonds, good light, walking the golden door. Everybody knows that you want it more. Ice cold to the touch, we're gonna burn it down, bodies so hot until we hit the ground. Everybody knows that you want it more. It's not my fault. I don't wanna talk about it, not tonight. No, you probably think about it, but it's fine. Playing all the same, you know there's no amount, 'cause money makes the world go round. I don't see a problem till it makes me sick. Dollars by the minutes, I'ma spend it quick. No talking me down, yeah, I'm doing it now, 'cause money makes the world go round. Sun kissed on my lips, the way
Final draft of the day, 4th game of week 3. Let's get going. Thresh has already been banned, taken off the table. Actually, I think Thresh has had a 100% ban rate today. I need that confirmed, but he's definitely been popping up very early on in the ban rotations. MNM on blue side, by the way. And they ban the Tristana.
I mean, this is not a kindergarten. You can't just say let it through. We have bans for a reason, and if Monk is only comfortable under Tristana, get it out of there.
I think it's just like salt in the wound at this point. They're like, we know we could beat you if you had the Tristana, and we're just going to make sure that we get to beat you even harder because you don't have it.
It's definitely not funny, and his team is also getting banned out here. In the beginning of the split, we saw that they just wasted, or not per se wasted, but they just used 3 bans on Monk to make him as uncomfortable as possible, and that worked wonders. So let's see how this one turns out.
I'm really excited for this Volley Bear incoming blue 1 priority.
I honestly know that Kakan really likes to play the Volley Bear in the top lane, so I wouldn't be surprised if they first picked it. But honestly, we've been talking about aesthetic. Get him a good matchup right here. Grab him something that he can carry with. I wouldn't be surprised if they even first picked the Graves right here for MNM.
All right, Varus went through.
Varus is there.
So many teams now think that they can just leave Varus open. They're like, oh, we'll just play the Bad Lion style. And then they can't execute on it and they get Varused.
Maybe it's just because that they have a substitute support coming in here. They want to go for something that's easier. Now you have the Karma. You can pair it up with the Ezreal. It's literally just about pushing the waves in and having that priority. But that does leave the Varus open on the opposite side. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but I'm trying to be the devil's advocate here.
Volley Bear Varus rotation.
Like first picking Karma. Like in what world does that make sense? Or like no.
I think Goldberg brought up a really good point. You have someone who's uncomfortable playing their stage game. You get a super safe champion like Karma. And think about this. If he's the strategic coach, he's just going to like zip and zoom them all over the map.
It's big brain time.
It's big brain.
Okay, this is 5-head then. We're going 5-head levels of draft. The Ezreal gets taken away. Volley Bear also locked in. So you could go for Varus, I guess, for like a really hard shove lane.
Just think it's so interesting. We saw so much priority on it last week, and then now suddenly it's not even getting first pick, right? It's just being let through.
It is 100% ban rate in LPL. It has not been played. Like, Varus is that high priority a champion, and these guys just completely ignoring it.
That's what I'm like to see, because right now the Karma becomes a flex pick as well. You can give massive priority in the mid lane. You can invade together with your Graves, so you can help him in his skirmishes too. And Aesthetic has the Graves. I remember Aesthetic personally showing me an MVP clip of him 1v5ing on the Graves, and that's exactly what I want to see. And that Kog'Maw better be AP and mid lane.
I don't know about that one, but we can certainly let it be known that there is a flex about this Kog'Maw as the AP scalings did get buffed. I still find it so funny. I think the theory, or at least my theory about Varus is that they're playing scrims, and since he's 100% ban rate, they're not getting to play Varus or something like that, so they're uncomfortable about it. I really don't know how it wasn't let through. Rakan did see some buffs too on this patch. I don't know if they're really huge to get back into meta, but we have seen Kasing with some success on this champion too, and you can see that they're just going for hard engage on these champions.
Yeah, just to double down on that, I think that when you see a Kog'Maw, whether it's AP or AD, you throw a Rakan back there and you can really wreck his day. So having those dive tools, and then on top of that, you layer the Ezreal ultimate, you're going to do some pretty big damage and pop this guy like a balloon. And oh, finally, a Varus ban. So they are with you, Trouble. They do think that it's the Kog'Maw mid.
And I mean, at this rate, if they're gonna ban every ADC in the world available for the bot lane, they're gonna ruin my dreams, and the Barcode is gonna have to grab the Juggernaut down the bot lane. I do have in the back of my mind the Kai'Sa as well, because I do think it works really well with the Karma. You still get priority. It's a really nice counter to the Ezreal. So, and we've been talking about how fun it is to watch the Kai'Sa, and why not here? MNM is down and beaten up. Why not have some fun? And maybe win some games, and that would be the last prediction that I get wrong today, if they win. So there you go.
I feel like MNM seem to be really hamstrung by their champion pools in this draft right now, just because so many of these big, powerful priority picks. And you know, I'm not gonna like preach the gospel of drafting to them. I think play comfort, especially if you're really struggling. You want to eliminate as many variables as possible and just play like the champions that you know to play, so you can focus on like making the correct rotation, lane assignment, CS, and not being like, oh, I have to do all of this and know how to or learn how to play a champion. So I'll leave it at that one, but this was a bit of a head scratcher.
About time that we saw that Kassadin ban come out too. They really don't want to be dealing with that one, especially not when Yatron is piloting that one. He's been having great success with that one. Haven't gotten a win with it, but he looked great on it. Let's just say it like that. I think it's really interesting that we still get 100% kind of ban rate on that Varus. It's just into second ban rate. We actually get the blind pick here, so they're keeping that flex with the top and jungle with the Slappy Bear.
Honestly, I'm gonna top from a platinum solo queue experience. Kog'Maw does great into the Corki in the mid lane because you repeatedly get to push in waves. You both go towards the tier sort of build. So unless we see a Peacock's being picked up first by Yadron, you don't necessarily have that much more kill pressure. Please lock that in. I'm victorious. I'm done. This is my draft. I'm gonna go against my prediction here and say that I want MNM to win just for that Kog'Maw.
I mean, like I said, like Kog'Maw is something that Monk. Okay. When Monk played AD, he was known in solo queue for what champion? Does anyone want to tell me what champion he's known for?
I can take a guess and say Kog'Maw.
Yeah, it's Kog'Maw. Well done. 1,000 tickets to you. Monk was kind of known for his Kog'Maw back in the day. So bringing him back onto something incredibly comfortable. By the way, that's a poppy. Bringing him back in something incredibly comfortable. So that seems like a really positive thing for MNM. Their draft is wonky. Their draft is crazy. Like I just have not expected to see something like this in this meta. You look at Barrage, it looks far more 10-13. But if MNM need to play something like this to win, MNM need to play something like this to win.
I don't think the draft is, like, the champions picked are obviously a bit fringe playing to those comfort, but in terms of what the draft actually executes on, it fits all of the responsibilities that you'd normally like to see. You still have wave clear into your mid lane, you have a scaling ADC. I think that Caitlyn's a bit weaker on 2 items than some of the other scaling ADC picks that hit really hard on 1, 2, and then also get better, where she really needs kind of those kind of first item and then 3 items. But otherwise, this is still like a protect Graves initially, use your lane priority and your pushing priority to hyper farm him, and then come into mid game and look for skirmishing around that, even though you have things like the Poppy, or excuse me, like the Kog'Maw, and the Poppy's just there to keep them all safe.
I will say, you can talk how bad this ref was or how good it was. I will say, though, that this Poppy pick coming in as a blind pick, really good into the Rakan too, but at the same time, we know Dreedy's champion pool. He liked to get on these carry top laners like Camille too, so it's fine that if you're going to blind pick, why not have Poppy? That's fine when you finally start grouping, and it's actually working well into the champion pool of Dreedy. So I think that was like a nice little niche pick coming into it.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for this because both these teams are 0 wins, so this will be their first win for whichever team manages to take it. I'm kind of hoping that MNM do it just for morale reasons, but obviously Barrage could probably use a little boost too. Gonna hand it. Oh, before I hand it, Trouble, you want last words?
I just wanted to say that I'm ready to lose my last prediction of the day. That's it.
For the flame.
Okay. By the way, everybody predicted Barrage, so everybody will be losing their last prediction if MNM ends up winning this. Okay, boys, take it away.
Thank you very much, Excandrel. Hello, welcome back to the Caster Desk as we get ready for our 4th game of the day. MNM have gone AD carry mad with the Graves, the Caitlyn, and the Kog'Maw. Obviously, the AP Kog'Maw. I didn't expect we were going to see that today, even after the small buffs he did have to his AP scaling.
I mean, if it's anyone, it's going to be Monk.
Will Monk carry?
That's the question. And if it was going to be anyone, it's going to be Monk bringing out the AP Kog'Maw. Yeah, I guess we'll see if the buffs make a difference. For anyone who didn't see, he got a 0.1 buff to the AP ratio on his ultimate and a 0.2 buff to the AP ratio on his Q. And the bigger one is his ultimate, but obviously that only comes online at level 6. And I mean, they have quite a lot of range on this composition, but something you do need because you're going up against the likes of a Corki and Ezreal, who typically have a lot of long range abilities. So, I mean, I'm just hyped to get. We said this one would be an interesting one.
We did indeed, as we load onto the Summoners Rift for our final game of week 3 here at the NLC. The 2 teams at the bottom of Group B, 0-3 apiece. One of them will be finding their first win of this league. Who will it be? Barcode kind of playing the old Harry. If you don't follow the UKLC, MNM's ADC and their academy team, Harry does really, really love the Caitlyn. In fact, it's basically permabanned against him.
I like that they were going for the level 1 cheese in the bot lane. In this game, I mean, this is a very important match, okay? This is going to dictate who's at the bottom of the group. Arguably more important than Fnatic against Tricked.
You could argue that. I'm
That's
sure.
the thing. You could say any statement you want and just put arguably at the front. And you know, arguably my hair is blue, right? I can argue it.
Arguably, I'm a better League of Legends player than you. It's
You're
a hard
not,
argument.
but you
It's
can
a
argue
very
it.
hard argument, but it's there.
It's I gotta remember that. Arguably, this is a more important game because, you know, Fnatic and Tricked already have plenty of wins. They have loads of them. Neither of these teams have a single win, so that's why it's so important. And that's why when it's this important, you bring out the AP Cogmore mid for Monk. And he's already got the mechanics. He's played a lot of Cogmore. That is his go-to champion. Now he gets to show, can he sort of present it as an AP form? I think typically compared to some of the other mid lane mages like Azir and like Orianna, Corki doesn't normally contest priority as hard, but is still going to be able to shove this Cogmore in, at least to the later stages. You want to get to that point where your E and your ult can combine and just essentially pop the wave and just wave clear excessively. Level 7, a big point for that, and obviously unlocking the ult. And then once you can just clear waves, you can just set up mid, just keep burning through them. Between you and the Caitlyn, there's a lot of wave clear, a lot of safety afforded there.
Obviously, the last time we saw Monk on the Cogmore, it was back when he was actually MNM's AD carry, about 1.5 years ago now. And he did hard carry, to be fair. That was obviously the on-hit Cogmore as well, so slightly different playstyle. They had the Lulu support. MNM setting up for a quick tilt over Peacemaker onto Den Voxney.
And this is going to be a hard lane for the Ezreal Rakan. Rakan, he isn't obviously one of those pure melee champions, but he doesn't have quite as much threat as the likes of a Nautilus or a Thresh. And he isn't going to really hold up too well to the poke and harass of this Karma Caitlyn, who we completely expect to have almost permanent priority in this lane. Obviously, at times, the wave's going to bounce back, but can easily force it when they want it.
Yeah, you can see already just getting that shove. Den Voxney taking a lot of poke and a lot of harass, and they'll just have to play it chill here for Barrage in this bot side. But while we're talking about how these two teams are, you know, 0-3 at the bottom of the barrel, for Barrage, I have been impressed by pretty much all of their games. Even in their losses, I think they've looked very good. MNM, I can't really say the same for them.
I think they've shown life, and I think the player who's shown the most life on MNM is Aesthetic. I think when the rest of the team's crumbling around him, particularly mid lane, it's been Aesthetic who has shown a little bit. You know, on the AP Shyvana, he was challenging. Even on his Lee Sin, he had some moments. But unfortunately, jungle is heavily gated by mid. If you're not having the assistance from your mid laner, you're going to struggle. And that's why it's been so difficult for them. And it was an issue last split for Aesthetic as well, when Naito was playing on Nordavind with him in the Nordic scene, and Naito wasn't having great performances. We saw Aesthetic really struggle there as well. And I feel like he has a lot to offer. If he can find some pressure, if he has lane supporting him, and that's why I think having the Caitlyn Karma essentially enables you to play around that lane that can have the priority, and you allow the Cogmore essentially just to scale up. But you actually see Monk has found a push here and is moving over to assist. Has burned through all of his mana to achieve that push though, and that is one of the strengths. Obviously, if you're spamming that, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know the Cogmore ability names, but the one where you puke out the slide thing, you can obviously clear the wave
and slide.
This slip and slide. That's the name.
Let's
now.
roll with the old slip and slide. It's kind of more gross. Den Voxney taking a lot of damage from Barcode here. Obviously getting poked out. Yadron actually getting half health by Monk here on the Cogmore. Although Monk might be on the receiving end of a flipper gank. They got the shields. They've got the flash out from Monk.
And this is one of the issues with the Cogmore. Just so easy to gank. Very immobile, very squishy. And that's a threat. But obviously, he does get away with a flash, but that means he's now vulnerable for the next few minutes. I'd actually like to see Nightmares potentially roam up to assist with a gank there. But for now, we're seeing Kakan pushed up. Flipper's looking to come over. Both junglers spot each other out. And I like Aesthetic's move here, applying the pressure on the Scuttle and trying to support Kakan. I would like to see him stay up here and help Kakan crash the wave, but I guess they don't really see the threat of Flipper trying to gank Kakan.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about scaling in this game, and especially in the mid lane. Yadrin has shown us that he likes these scaling pool. His champ pool is very scaly. He likes to play the champions that kind of scale up. We know Corki is a champion who, as the game gets later, gets more and more relevant, gets scarier and scarier to play against. AP Cogmore, it's been a very, very long time since I've seen it. What is the scaling like for this?
How am I supposed to answer that, man? I don't know. I've seen it in ARAM, so I'm going off that. And we did see it before, so I can branch from that. The thing with AP Cogmore is you get extended range on your ultimate as you level it up. So at level 16 is like a huge spike. Not quite caster level, but the range on his ultimate becomes just disturbingly large. And he can really threaten and harass situations before the fight even starts. So I think late game, he really does become a massive threat. If you're trying to ever set up for an objective, he can just poke you down and cause a lot of harass. But obviously against a Corki is relevant at the later stages, and we could see Barrage looking to force engages. I think that's the critical thing, is that at a long range or when you're setting up for objective, MNM will do so well. They have a Karma to maneuver themselves around. They have Caitlyn Cogmore who can put traps down and start spamming the ultimate to cause harass. And then you have the disengage of the Poppy.
Oh, Monk's Blacksmith, remember, he's going to get jumped onto, and that will be him going down. Monk actually able to survive for a little bit longer, but first blood picked up for Yadrin. Hop goes the Weasel, and he is able to pick up the CS.
That's one of the vulnerabilities. But so I think if MNM get to an objective first, or they position in a way where they can't be engaged on, they're going to be great. And the Cogmore will look really strong, especially past that level 16 point, and show its true scaling. The issue comes if they get engaged on, or if a fight breaks out, Yadrin is going to output more DPS. If they get into the auto attack ranges, Barrage will start to win out. So I think as much as AP Cogmore does have a lot of scaling elements to it, it depends on the context of the situation. Because if Yadrin has a package, if he has 4 items and he's dashing over him, Cogmore's not going to have a fun time. But if you can keep him at bay, he'll do pretty good.
Alrighty, well. Tier piece picked up, although Yadrin has now gone and got a pickaxe to just the amp tome on Monk. Monk, though, is unlocking mid lane a little bit more. From what we've seen from previous games for MNM, he's not really been able to do too much. He's kind of just been getting clapped and then losing out for that. He shoved the lane and then he unlocks the Sphetic to be able to move forward aggressively. Now he's level 6. He's actually able to cut through these towers fairly quickly. Nightmares getting zoned out by a Sphetic.
I think I was underrating the early shove off Monk a little bit for the AP Cogmore, but definitely now, this level 7 point, that's where you can just one-hit the casters and keep pushing through. Now Barrage potentially looking for something here, but Cogmore is moving.
Yeah, Monk's about. Jason the Hog goes down. I actually think Monk stole away one of those. As Monk does have to be careful. Nightmare's level 4 can still do a fair amount of damage to him, although Monk looks to turn it around. Collateral damage in, and Monk falls to Yadrin once again. Into the Hextech ultimatum they go as the teleport will be completed, and Kakan finds himself in the middle of the team. Has to put up that steadfast presence for the moment and uses the box to send one away. Shadow now trying to see if he can find an opening, but Barrage walk away with that big team fight win. And they may just translate that into a Rift Herald for themselves.
I mean, they just lost essentially a 5v4 MNM. They just lost that. So that's pretty rough. And Monk, a little over-aggressive with your positioning. No reason for you to be there. You're not a Corki. You can't just Valkyrie over the wall. And he ends up getting punished. You'll see a replay, but it's just, why are you stepping up there? You can tell they're fishing for an engage. And it's very nice from Flipper and Greedy just to jump over the wall to punish. And Aesthetic gets caught up in the mix. So a bit rough, but ultimately it's only 2 deaths at 9 minutes, which I don't think is as bad as we've seen from Monk.
It's definitely an improvement.
It could be worse.
And I feel like even with these deaths, Monk is offering more for MNM than he has in previous weeks. He's able to push in the wave and help Aesthetic, although Aesthetic might need to help him here. They put the red smite in, and Flipper takes a little bit of damage. As
Monk's
Aesthetic
flash,
almost killed Monk.
Monk's flash just came up, you know, and it's gone again.
Oh, lordy, lordy.
When is he gonna get a break? He needs to hit the late game.
We got late game, boys. Now he is able to deal with this wave from a distance. He's got the blue buff. The package is on Yadrin though, so it looks like MNM just aren't going to bother contesting. It's way too risky. That bear is way too scary. Khan's going to try and get himself a plate. He will do with the demolish, although Dreedy looks to jump onto him. Khan going very, very low. Has to use that steadfast presence, and Dreedy may just find himself an easy solo kill here. Aesthetic's coming to slide in to save the day. They get the flash wall bang. Oh, what a turnaround, Khan! With the old bait and switch.
Beautiful play there, and Aesthetic coming in to capitalize. And that's one of the things with this matchup, the Poppy into the Camille. You have so much CC to lock it down. She dashes into a wall. You can easily capitalize on that, and just nice moves from Khan.
And we look mid lane, and Monk's getting chased out. We're actually having the clutches proxy farm there. Now Flipper with the Rift Herald has made his way into this bot side just to catch the wave. Yadrin's actually chipping away pretty heavily at this turret, so they could potentially just shove the Rift Herald down and get first turret blood. And also deny Monk his safe haven to hide under, because I think at that point, now that the Herald will take the tower.
I mean, it will just be able to take it down. I think that's where they want to look to use it. Flipper can easily give a ton of gold over to Jadran. Although the one concern is that Monk does have a lot of wave clear, but you don't even need the wave when it's that low on HP. Blue buff now in pocket. It really a nice buff for the Cogmore. Hitting that level 9 where he has his E maxed up, and that's the most important ability for the Cogmore in terms of wave clear. And obviously, if you can hit it on multiple members in a fight, that's pretty relevant as well. Now I'm going to throw down the Herald. Should just be looking to take this tower here.
Yeah, Monk's going to try and pop hit the eye, but he's not going to be able to. And this should just be the turret in the mid lane falling down. They got the wave as well. And that means Monk now doesn't really have a safe haven to hide under. He was already getting bullied pretty heavily. And now the mid lane has just grown even longer and even scarier for this Cogmore. Yadrin's finished up his mana melee. He's got himself the Sheen. Monk is sitting on the components for his Archangels, but hasn't finished it up yet. They're just going to flash onto Monk. They're going to use everything onto him. Good interrupt there, but Yadrin's able to find himself the kill, and then Voxley slides in forwards. The Hextech Ultimatum pins Khan in place. It's a double kill for the Corki. The ace in the hole is blocked by Nightmares. And MNM just scattered by Barrage. They looked good versus some of the top teams in Group B, and they are looking solid right now versus MNM.
Well, I will say one thing.
Okay.
At least Monk's getting a lot of value out of his passive.
You have to do him dirty like that.
I mean,
you're not wrong. You're
after his
factually
AK,
correct.
The Cogmore makes sense. The only thing that is upsetting is there's no AP scaling on the Cogmore passive. Then we'd really be talking. That would be the Monk gameplay that could get them the win.
Maybe they thought that was what was going on, so they picked it for that. Nightmare's getting chunked out in the bot lane.
I think the worrying thing now is this Cork. Yeah, I'd actually like to see a look at the gold lead just to see how far ahead Jadran is now. And you can see he has success advantage. 4 kills mean he's 2,000 gold up. And with how strong the Corki is going to be in the later stages, this is already really concerning. And that's essentially the entire gold lead between these teams is just the mid lane matchup. And it's not really something new. We've seen that a lot when looking at MNM's games where the mid is the sore spot, but at least there's a heavy scaling element with this Cogmore. If they can find the right environment to give him space, maybe we can see him bounce back.
And obviously, Monk is falling victim to, first of all, Flipper playing a very good kind of denial game, just ganking him as much as possible. And with that tower going down as well, it means he is less safe. So the scaling is harder for him, but it's not impossible. He's now finished up his Archangel stuff.
Something to note is that the wave clear is going to be there. So they can stall out in that regard. But the problem is 2 dragons in favor of Barrage, third one coming up in 3 minutes. That's going to put a bit of a timer on, especially as normally I kind of say how Cloud Soul is a situational value. Sometimes not as good, sometimes okay. for Flipper and Nightmares, it is so good. And in particular, when you think about the fact that Monk is immobile and they're looking to engage on him, having that extra movement speed is actually huge and really dangerous for the side of MNM. So I will be really concerned if Barrage try and get it. And ultimately, what MNM need to do is try and get some vision control around the area when it does spawn and try and poke them off it using the Cogmore and threaten with the Caitlyn traps, because that could be the ward against them. The Caitlyn traps are blocking any engaged potential. Now, Aesthetic is waiting up here, but you can see Jadran with the package and 3 other members coming up.
Yeah, they're just going to drop that down, going in for the Stormbringer. Aesthetic's just going to piece out with the base.
Channel the recall. He's going to do it to him.
Oh, that's so rough. Yeah, 5-0 on the Corki right now. Monk's now level 11, so he has the increased range on his R. And, you know, if Barrage decide to start up Baron, they actually will be susceptible for a fair amount of poke. Obviously, with the long range that MNM have with Barcode on the Caitlyn, with the poke coming down from Monk, and now they're looking to maybe make a play onto Dem Voxney here. Gonna take a little bit of something.
I'm not convinced by Monk's positioning.
I'm terrified. Actually, Dem Voxney taking a lot of damage, just kind of machine gunning on him.
Yes, but look
now
who's
Flipper's got the flank. Flanking Cogmore is going to have to flash the wall, and Yadrin slides in to pick up his 6th kill. The passive gets popped, and he will do a little bit of damage to Flipper. Teleport's getting used to Khan to join the team, and 1 minute 45 until the Drake, so at least Barrage can't take that right now. But flanking Cogmore, not completely sold on that, if I'm going to be honest with you, Orcs.
Yeah, I mean, he had his flash to get out, but it didn't quite give him enough space. And another rough game for MNM so far. 3,500 down. That Dragon's looming in a minute, and Cogmore and Monk not having the greatest performance. Not sure what else there is to say. Good from Barrage to punish. I will say that.
Yeah.
Jadran is really picking up a ton of kills.
I think the mid jungle from Barrage is really, really solid this game. Flipper counter ganking and kind of reading the map really well, and Yadrin also always playing in his pocket on the Corki. It's enabling Yadrin to be this strong. He's now got the Triforce, he's now got the Mirror Mana, working to stack that up. He's got the Pen Boots as well. He's hit 2 incredibly powerful items for himself. The Rift Herald was taken, and it's just going to get summoned in the top lane to try and get some Dreedy gold into this Camille, and obviously that will enable the split push threat as well for Barrage.
As if things weren't already bad enough for MNM. There's that threat in the later stages. The split push is going to be problematic. And Shadow can't really do much to stop the charge. They will defend the tower though.
We'll get
Dragon spawning in 15, so leaning towards that one. Monk's recalling. They don't have any vision control. I think they're just conceding this one. I think Aesthetic might be trying to look for a potential steal angle. No, that's Kakan, sorry. But yeah, no vision, no real chance of a contest. Monk recalls.
I actually think,
hand this one over.
As much as giving up the 3rd Drake, it feels awful. I think this is actually the right call for MNM. They've sent Barco to the top lane to try and get some gold onto him. Yadrin is zoning Aesthetic. Aesthetic is able to get the red buff, but he has to use the smite to secure that. MNM will get their 2nd tower of the game here in the top lane, so, you know, gets a bit of global gold for the team. Also just kind of trying to keep themselves relevant, really, here. Barrage will answer out, though, with a bot lane turret of their own. Khan can't really do too much to defend versus the Rakan and the Ezreal. This turret will finally crumble down to Barrage.
It's not looking good. I mean, the gold isn't... It's not like the Munster game, the gold difference. So we can't say that. But the Corki is very scary. Now on that big 2-item spike, a ton of AD behind those abilities. Level 13 as well. Ace in the hole barely really does much damage at all. But all the added towers are down. And it feels like MNM have a pretty good control on defending the inner ones. So should be comfortable there. But the Dragon Soul in 4 minutes is the concern. And Baron will be up at that point. Be a fairly fast Baron from Barrage if they do lean towards it, especially with the Corki. So if MNM opt into this next Dragon fight, if they end up going down, that could just mean the Baron and then the game for Barrage.
I will say this much. The last time I saw Monk on the Cogmore, he was actually getting really smacked about. But as the game went later, he did pop off and carry. Again, that was the on-hit Cogmore. That was when he had a Lulu in his pocket, so it was a very different scenario.
I think he had an Iva in that game as well, didn't he?
He did have an Iva in that game,
And
actually,
it's like,
yeah.
I think that's the thing, is that we don't have the same level of protection here. We have just the Karma. It's a support Karma. It's not going to have a ton of shielding. That's where my concern is. And now Barrage have been playing this 1-3-1 out and are looking to push up in the mid lane. Monk's going to try and wave clear. But you can see the members of Barrage have just moved into collapse to ensure the safety, try and push for this tower. It goes down, and just a nice rotation play from Barrage. And it really feels like MNM are showing they know they can't contest right now.
I'm 20 minutes on the clock. 4,000 gold up, and you can tell a lot of that is most likely on Yadrin over Monk. But they do look to see if they can find Flipper, but Flipper is able just to move away with the Q. And now Dreedy could be on the receiving end of a gank here from Kakan. Seeing if they can find themselves an opening for the wallbang. There is no turret. Dreedy has to flash, but a great steadfast presence will stop Dreedy from the hook shot. Throws down the Hextech ultimatum, and Aesthetic will find the kill.
Oh, but
good little punish there from the jungle top duo. Teleports are coming in, and Yadrin, he's going to go godlike, looking for a double kill. Monk's looking to join
Monk's
up, though.
coming.
Monk's coming in with that slip and slide. The double kill's picked up for Yadrin, and he's just going to find himself an easy triple, but he might find the shutdown. The passive proc is not enough. Yadrin lives with 88 HP.
We needed the AP scaling on the passive. That was almost it. That was almost the play where we could have said Monk dying was worth it. It would have been 1,000 gold in his pocket. But unfortunately, Nightmares with his shields keeps Jadran alive. And he's now 9-0 on the Corki. So close.
Oh, that is heartbreaking. He's gone for the Crystal Scepter second.
Yeah, the consistent slows are really nice on the Cogmore. So once you land one ultimate, you can just land more and more again and again. Obviously, it's a little bit tricky against Barrage because, you know, you have the Arcane Shift of Ezreal and the Valkyrie of the Corki. But you can gain ground on them to keep applying it. So Rylai's is a pretty common pickup on the Cogmore. Liandry's also is for you chaining together those ultimate. And normally you don't invest too heavily in things like the Rabadons. The base damages are quite high on the ultimate off the Cogmore, especially since you can spam it. So it tends to lean more towards that.
All right, well, they're looking to find Dreedy once again. Dreedy has been kind of on the beating end. Barrage, but he's able to hook a shot away. Yadrin 9-0 on the Corki. Got his Infinity Edge just on this base as well. The 3 items are in. He is incredibly strong right now. Barcode has been silently farming up on the Caitlyn. But Frost was kind of hitting on back in Champ Select. One of the problems with Caitlyn, she takes a very long time to actually become relevant.
Yeah.
And the question is are MNM going to bleed out before Caitlyn can become relevant? With Yadrin getting his 10th kill?
Oh.
Maybe.
Yeah. Shadow, the new addition of team, a little bit over-aggressive in the positioning and a good punish from Jadran there. I mean, just there's so much damage on this Corki. We didn't get to see it fully on camera, but I expect it was just a quick one-shot. And now MNM are trying to position to contest this dragon. They need to land a lot of poke here.
Yep, they're looking for Flipper. They do get himself
Nightmares on the
Stormbreaker
flank.
thrown out. Monk has been potentially caught out, though. He's putting the damage in. The shields are there. Kakan finds the kill. MNM look to turn this play on his head. In comes the Camille, however. They are looking for a little bit more. The Hextech ultimatum as Yadrin finds himself his 11th kill. Drew, the longest hookshot I think I've ever seen, will take down Monk. And this will be the dragon over to the side of Barrage. This will be Ocean Soul. Sorry, Cloud Soul to Barrage.
I mean, Barco just wasn't even
He just
interested.
pieced.
Barco
He
was
actually
just
pieced
like,
out of that.
I'm out. I'm farming top. You guys do what you want. Hey, at least Monk is now on the board. He got an assist. So, you know, he's not 0-6-0, 0-6-1. But definitely looked rough. And now the extra movement speed. I mean, we saw the engages from Barrage. We see Flipper, Nightmares, and Dreedy rushing forwards. That's just going to be even more threatening. Nightmares in particular, I think Rakan is one of the biggest benefactors of a Cloud Soul. Obviously, when you pop that ultimate, you already get some movement speed. You're going to get even more. It just makes it very difficult for Monk and Barcode to really position. Although I think Barcode's strategy is now just position out the fight.
Have a little look at that once again, though.
So Kakan actually does a really good job here with the Steadfast Presence, which actually disables the engage from Nightmares and keeps Flipper in place. But ultimately, Judy comes in, and as soon as the Corki joins the fight, you can see Aesthetic just walking away. He knows it's over. The Corki, they just can't handle it right now, and I'm not sure if they will be able to at any point.
24 minutes on the clock. Barrage have a Dragon Soul already. They have an 11-0 Corki. Shadow, very, very pushed up. We'll get jumped onto by Flipper, but he's able to dodge around the Sky Splitter. And you were hitting on how quick the Baron is for Barrage. When Corki's this fed at 24 minutes, that Baron will just be cut through so fast.
Yeah, I think there's definitely faster Barons, but having double AD carry, even if one is Ezreal, is pretty fast. And the thing is, it's going to be so healthy because you have Flipper the tank and Nightmares.
Uh-oh. Shadow has to flash away. The True Shot Barrage will clip in. The heals there onto Shadow, but they do look to chase for a little bit more. Monk tries to join into the fight. They use that teleport as the ace of the whole connects. Kikan's onto the flank, but Yadrin looking to zone onto Monk. The slipping slide's placed down, and Yadrin's actually taking a lot of damage from Monk here. Monk's doing some serious work on the Cogmore, and MNM actually get out with all of their members alive.
I see that as an absolute win. They don't lose a single member, and you actually saw Monk there managing to land down the consistent poke on a Jadrin. And you can see when Monk and Barcode can keep them at bay, keep them at a safe range, they actually can do a lot of work. But Barrage, feeling the lull in pressure from MNM, instantly move on the Baron, and
it's going down so quick. They finally placed down the blue, but it's way too little. It's way too late. That's Baron Nashor picked up. Aesthetic takes almost his entire health bar from a rocket and a Q.
Well, at least no one died.
At least no one died. Now, Yadrin's level 16 on the Corki, so he's got max ranks in his R. Monk is level 14, so he's a little bit of a ways off before he gets to his max rank on his R. But he's got as much range as possible, and he can just keep Barrage at an arm's length for longer than an arm's length.
Actually, interesting, he's going towards... I'm not sure if it'll be the Rabadons or the Spellbinder here, but... I mean, I guess it did up the AP ratio, but originally the AP ratio on the Cogmore Ultimate was kind of low. Obviously, it does ramp up when it's getting to execute level. But I think with the buff, potentially, Rabadons could be the right buy. Leandri's was a pretty popular one as well.
Aesthetic has to use the collateral damage, but he's taken out by Yadrin, who's absolutely legendary now. He drops the package onto Kakan. He's looking for a double kill. The flash wallbang does go out, though, as Kakan's trying to turn this player on its head. In comes the tank, though. Flipper's on the front line. Monk's trying to fire out on the backside as Voxney is just going to be jumping in. Monk goes down. Yadrin finds himself yet another kill. 13-0-2 on the Corki. Barcode is the only one standing. Dreedy flashes in to try and get himself the kill onto Barcode. Barcode back to the fountain, back to safety. But there is nothing he can do. Barrage are looking so dominant in this game. And MNM, another heartbreaking loss for them. Barcode is able to survive as Voxney will go down. 17-4, 27 minutes on the clock. Barrage take the win.
Good play from Barrage, and I think we expected this outcome. We saw they had offered quite a bit of challenge to the other teams in the group, even if they weren't successful in those games. Even Fnatic were at the top of the group. There was a moment where we believed in Barrage, and I think a convincing game against MNM. They didn't really give them any room to breathe, but I mean, for MNM at this point, question's going to be, will they get a win over the entire split? Because obviously the change in support has happened now. Shadow didn't look especially impactful that game through no fault of his own, but we can't talk about anything but the problem in mid lane. And Monk brings out the Cogmore, gets punished for it, consistently goes down, ends up with a pretty rough to see scoreline. And it just feels like you're never going to be able to come out successful in a game with how important mid is, with how important it is in terms of priority, in terms of rotating, and the sort of champions in the current meta, like the Corkis, the Azirs, the Orianas, who scale so well. Even the TF, who obviously can offer that map-wide control. And I just think, with this much of a mid difference, how are they ever going to really find that win?
I don't know. Well, I actually don't know how to answer that question. Unfortunately for MNM, it is a heartbreaking loss. But for Barrage, it kind of proves the point that, yeah, they were at the bottom. Yeah, they hadn't got their win at all here at the NLC, but they were definitely leaps and bounds above MNM. And this Group B looks hard for MNM. Are they going to find that win? We don't know, but we are going to cut to a quick break. We will let the analysts break this down, so don't go anywhere, because after the break, the analysts will break it down. We also have a little interview, so we'll see you in a second.
Take me away from here. Take me away. Take me away from here. Take me away from here. Take me away. 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 Take me away from here. 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 Take me away. Take me away from here. Take me away. Take me away from here. Take me away. Take me away from here. Take me away, away, away. Take me away from here, from here. The music takes me places that I never dreamed that I would go, and how it touches me, touches me, touches me. The music takes me places that I never dreamed that I would go, and how it touches me, touches me, touches me. The music takes me places that I never dreamed that I would go, and how it touches me, touches me, touches me. Lift me up, lift me up.
All right, we're making a pact, okay, for this post game. We're avoiding the elephant in the room. Tell me what Barrage did really well this game. Tell me how Barrage took advantage of this game.
Before, I know that we're supposed to talk about how good Barrage are. I do want to quickly touch, though, that Poppy performance top lane was pretty sick. So outside that, like, I think MNM, they could take that one away. Top lane play, that that poppy insect play. What are we going to call it? Goldberg, I think you called it the Kakan now.
The Kakan, man. This is the first time in NLC history.
Okay, that was it. Now you guys can talk about Barrage. But I was like, Poppy, you did good.
I think that we've seen a Barrage that necessarily haven't been able to, once they got a lead, be able to solidify their lanes or the game in general. Obviously, I'm sorry, Scarlett, I have to do it, but obviously MNM is one of the weaker opponents in the league, so it was easier this time. And it really felt like we finally saw a Barrage who was in control, who all felt very comfortable on the map. It never really felt like they were afraid to fall behind. It never really felt like they were making any mistake. This is the Kakan. Yeah, right there we go. The Kakan coming in hot here, but it never really felt like they were too far behind. And then we have Yatron. I mean, this guy was just styling on everyone with his cocky, and he made it seem easy. He was just one-tapping people.
And I mean, honestly, at this point, we pretty much highlighted the solo laners, how well Dreedy can play the side lane, even though now he didn't necessarily respect it as much as we saw him respecting the side lane in the Monster game. But we also have to mention here, you know, the opponent. Sometimes when you're playing against the weaker team, you don't necessarily respect instantly that much who you're playing against. But then again, Yadran, I think Kokis have had like great performances in the league so far. And this guy individually seems to be shining so much. Felipe stepping up to the plate, playing that towards that top side and instantly snatching away any leads that Aesthetic was trying to make through Kakan.
And talking about Ox and Hitbrain before we came onto the desk, you know, they brought up a good point that Dusty's going to be the next opponent for Barrage. This can be a really nice like tee up, a nice softball, get you all warmed up, get that motivation feeling. Like you feel good after punching down on MNM after that. And I think now they can solidify themselves as more than just kind of middle of the pack and hopefully go into their next game feeling like, okay, we know what our win conditions are. We know we can style on opponents. So like, let's put it together.
Yeah, and to me, it finally seemed like we had more than Yatron to Barrage. We actually saw Flipper doing something, as Truffle was mentioning. He wasn't just being held back in his own jungle and without the ability to farm. He was actually part of the team, part of securing his laners elite too. So it's nice that we finally got to see Barrage as a whole team instead of just Yatron and Kassadin performance or Veigar performance, but we actually had a team working together to secure a lead. Now, it's gonna be tough because you were playing MNM, and you need to translate this into every time you play. We've been talking about this. It's about the consistency. But luckily for Barrage, I feel like the bot lane has been one of these spot lanes that's been looking more and more consistent the further we've got into the split. But I'm looking to see Barrage be tested even more because I don't think we've seen the last to them because I feel like they have potential, but I want them to show more as well.
I mean, come on, man. Don't beat them when they're done. We talked about how feels bad, man, their losses have been so far because when you're so close.
They were close.
When you're so close to winning, this is the one that hurts you the most. You're like, we could have had this one. It was a better team than us on paper. We could have beat them and we just missed it right at the end. And now getting the win, I think it's kind of like the mood booster that they needed. Like, look, we can win games. We do it in our own terms. We play that perfectly. Doesn't matter which team it was against. It's the first win in the books. And now we're going to translate that going further into the tournament.
Yeah, I actually have Jadran standing by, so I'm gonna go over and talk to Jadran and sort of discuss Barrage a little bit because obviously it's good to get their first win on the board. Hi, can you hear me, mate?
Hey, I can hear you.
Yeah, good. So first of all, Goldberg was saying this is like your first big step up to an ERL. How has that been for you? Like sort of coming to this level of play, compared to previously?
Well, it was quite big for me to face Maggie Felix as the first team, actually. So my heart was really pumping when I faced him, but I actually solo killed him. But he did made a mistake. But it's quite nice. I didn't expect to play in NLC at all, actually. So I'm glad Barrage gave me the opportunity.
Yeah, and I think you've been proving that you're worth a spot. You've been playing incredibly well. Obviously, you've got that pocket pick Kassadin everyone bans against you, but even that Corki performance is excellent. Something that we've noted about Barrage throughout the last few days, or rather last few weeks even, is that you've been really close to beating big teams. Like it genuinely has felt like you've been super close to beating some of the top teams in the league, but you just haven't quite managed to get there. What is it that you think that you're doing wrong that's not allowing you to convert some of the really close wins or really close matches that you're having?
So we're actually doing quite well, as you mentioned, but yeah, we're starting to get nervous in the games, and then the adrenaline is pumping. A lot of people are talking at the same time, and then we just can't execute what we actually want to do, what we discussed before the game. And then it just, yeah, we just fumble around, die in the sides, and we don't execute correctly. So we just fall apart, even though we do good. So.
Yeah, you do. I mean, I think, listening to Trouble talk about you, obviously she's a big fan of Barrage and the way that you've been playing. It does look like you're really close. Like it just feels like something's just not going right. And, you said like maybe just executing on certain plays. What is it for you? Like, what do you see as the biggest strength of your squad, as a whole?
The biggest strength? Well, we haven't really played for that long, so we had to sort of find a way on how we want to play. And everyone is willing to try a lot of stuff. We're testing a lot of in scrims, but we all pretty, how do you say it? We are pretty calm in terms of what we want to do. But again, when we need to just transition it into executing it properly. Throughout the early game and mid game, we actually do okay, but yeah, we still need to do it towards mid-late game-ish.
And do you think that this win is going to allow you to now gain confidence, springboard, and maybe challenge some of those teams when you face them again?
Should be. We discussed about it a lot, that we just need to have more confidence and believe in ourselves. And yeah, I sort of went ham that game, and I was really confident in myself to carry the game home. So I took a lot of resources. I even asked Flipper, I want to take all your Raptors these games because I want to just get a lot of resources put on me and take over the game, which I did. But when the game, let's say the game before that, then Voxer was needed to play the front line, but we were too scared to push up as 4 in mid lane when Dree was playing Camille in side lane. So it should give us a good boost of confidence winning this game. So
I hope so, because when Barrage do look good, it is really exciting to see you play. Jadran, thanks for talking to me, and congratulations on your first win in the NLC.
Thank you as well. Have a nice day.
So good to hear from Jadran there. Trouble, I know that you kind of wanted to expand a bit.
That was such an honest and genuine answer coming from him, right? He talked about the strength of schedule, basically. He's like, okay, we're a newly formed team. We haven't necessarily figured out how we want to play. And I'm put into a matchup versus Mudge Felix, versus Fnatic, the big dog of the league. And I actually managed to solo kill him. And this is a great boost. Right now, he said he went into the matchup. He's like, I want the resources because I know I can carry. And he takes them and then he does carry, and that is great coming from them and seeing that, because I think that's what they were lacking as well, the sort of energy and mood boost to be able to carry, to know that they're able to carry. And I'm loving that we heard this from him.
To me, Barrage has been one of these teams showing promise to, but they sometimes just seem a bit too inexperienced. Especially coming back to what Jadran said, that their early game to mid game is actually fine, but it's when that blood starts to get pumping, when you really have to equalize in that last fight, and you're just nervous. And it makes sense because you're not used to be in this kind of setting, right? So Barrage really just needs time, because I feel like time and time again, they've actually shown us that they are able to pull some good plays out of the hat, but it's the consistency going into it. And I feel like the more we see these guys play together and actually become good friends and actually become a good team, I think we're going to see better performances for them too.
Frankly, it feels kind of like a race again on who's going to figure out the fast, because the teams all have kind of the same problem. It's always going to be getting that consistency, figuring out how to play on those side lanes, tightening up some of the individual decision making, and whoever gets there first or kind of figures it out, solves these puzzles, will sprint ahead, because otherwise the league is just really close. Some guys have the carry days, some guys are able to outplay, like the skill gap is certainly there, but everyone's got at least one player that they can play through or have some sort of win condition for them.
Yeah, one of the biggest things for me this today has been just how good Munster Rugby Gaming looked. I know we're looking at replays from across the day today, but Munster Rugby Gaming, they were the most impressive improvement for me. Like, they seem to have found their groove, and I saw a tweet from their head coach Ferndog basically saying, this is the Munster that we've wanted to show every other week,
Yeah, and of course, Ferndog, former coach of Excel before Youngbuck moved over in there, and now picking up with like Maxlor, you have a ton of experience on being in these types of situations and what you're going to do with this roster. So I think that for Munster, it's a bit punching down, especially when they pop off like that, but it's making sure that you're not just relying on the skill of your players to outmaneuver at the ERL level, that there's also some core fundamentals that are consistently showing through every single game, so we don't have such various different looks from Munster where it's like, oh, okay, Maxwell had a bad game, that didn't look great, versus Maxwell had an incredible game and just hard carried on Elise.
And honestly, that's not only Munster Rugby Gaming. I feel like there are countless teams in the league where we can apply this terminology to, where they are just coming in with a different mentality. As Munster Rugby said about the mentality, I think it's the same thing Riddle is going through. I think it's the same thing BTXL sometimes does. They are great teams, but they're just not consistent at being good teams. And I'm pretty sure it goes down to mentality, because they, as I said, they just are great teams. And I hope that after this week is over, that after we've seen that, okay, we really need to pull ourselves together now, that we're going to see teams coming in not being cocky, but being respectful, playing properly towards their win conditions, and just play some nice League of Legends.
It could just be so difficult. You know, it's a very different scenario than when you get to take stage and you got like the crowd in front of you and you're, you know, behind the lights, and it kind of puts you into that very serious professional mode, especially at this stage where you're playing online. You know, some people are playing from facilities, some people are playing from their bedrooms, some people are, you know, balancing all of these different things to be able to flip that switch and kind of get that, you know, everyone kind of sees the pro level as like the standard that you want to meet. And sometimes it's just about kind of meeting the bare minimum and just putting in your time and making sure that you're as light as possible.
Well, you can disagree with me here if you want to, but I feel like when you are going into these EILs and when you are having a dream in esports, you have to be better than the average human. I know it's hard actually having the proper mental for this, but it's what you need if you want to succeed. And I think a lot of these teams can't run the risk of coming in with a bad mental anymore. They really need to pull themselves together.
Well, let's take a look at where we are after week 3 of the NLC. Let's have a look at the standings and check if anything's have shifted around. Over in Group A, you can see BTXL and Nordavind still at the top. Ents and Riddle and Godsend all 2-2, and Poor Singularity down at the bottom at 0-4. They still unable to get a win, but everything looking pretty even. Not much sort of gap between first and fifth here in Group A. We can move over to Group B and have a quick look at that. And yeah, this is where the gap opens up. Fnatic is up there. It's a bit more lopsided in this group, Frostgurin.
So what's really interesting is just kind of out of the gameplay that I've seen, it feels like Fnatic, Munster, and Excel are kind of the 3 teams that really stick out. But then you have this really healthy kind of chasers in Tricked, Barrage, maybe even Riddle. Like their name keeps popping up in terms of the individual talent. But right now it feels like there's 3 like quite strong breakaway teams, but otherwise the groups are fairly evenly spread, that you have like 4 competitive teams, although it does feel like in Group B, like, I don't know, Fnatic Rising look head and shoulders above what Excel have shown so far, at least to me.
And actually, I believe we were interviewing today. I can't remember who it was in the interview, but they did say, like, when you look at, it was Matty. When we took it to Matty said, I think there is a clear set of teams that are better than the rest, but compare this to the way that the UKLC was last split, which was the league that Fnatic was in. The middle of the pack is much better, like much better. So the middle pack of the league is really good in NLC, and that's a healthy environment to encourage teams to grow and potentially chase those top end. Guys, let's have a look at next week, because obviously we are now coming to the end of week 3. Let's start to look towards week 4, and the matches that we've got coming up next Tuesday is going to be Team Singularity versus Riddle. That'll be our first match. Godsent versus Nordavind, Ents versus BTXL, and then we're going to have Tricked taking on Munster Rugby. Personally, very excited for the Trick Munster Rugby game. I think that's going to be another really interesting one to keep our eyes on. Any games there, if you want to expand on to Wednesday, we have Barrage versus Dusty, MNM Fnatic, XL versus Godsend, and Ents versus Riddle. But if you have any games that you're particularly interested in, I'd love to hear about them.
I actually think that week is quite stacked in terms of that these teams are fairly close when they're matching up in their power. Like, obviously people will gravitate towards Tricked versus Munster because it's like 2 higher end teams that have kind of explosive play styles that can run into each other, should be quite bloody. But even Singularity versus Riddle, these are 2 teams that have been relying more so on like their individual laners prowess and kind of lacking some of the team synergy that you expect. So it's still actually a fairly interesting play style matchup. So I actually think week 4 across the board looks super solid.
Yeah, I want to start where we just ended this one. I want to look on to Barrage and Dusty. That's the one I'm looking for, especially because Dusty's been having so many issues with the team that's just above them, and Barrage has slowly but steadily finally climbed up in their skill level and their synergy as a team. So I want to see how these two teams collide. They're just stuck in a gray zone right now to see who can actually separate them from the other end.
I believe that Godsend versus Nordevent is going to be a big click, as in have these teams actually figured out in week 4 what they want to do, because Godsend came into this week being favorites and we're like, wow, they could be up there, you know, with the BTXLs and the Fanatics, and they sort of fumbled, they didn't show up. And on the other hand, you have Nordevin where they show a really great week and then they default back to comp, and you're like, well, your comp doesn't necessarily make too much sense. You have the individual talent, so have you figured out how you want to play?
Well, I think, like Frost said, there's a lot of like really close affairs going on next week where genuinely you could swing it either way. A couple of, I would say, one-sided based on what we've seen from teams. I think the Fnatic MNM game. But other than that, you know, I think we've got quite a lot of close games that potentially could
What
go
was
either
that?
way. That was my noise. Anyway, like on that bombshell, I'm going to close out the week. Thank you so much for joining me, Trouble, Gulborg, and Frost Furin. We will see you all next week, same time, same place.